Bonjour, hi. Welcome back to another episode of Canada One. And you'll notice we're in a little bit of a different setting. As you can see from my beautiful posters, I'm a very civilized person. I'm very mature, as they say. But what we're going to be watching today is obviously what's on everyone's mind and what everyone's been talking about or going to be talking about, and that is the Trump versus Biden debate. Now, forewarning, I've already watched this a few nights ago when it actually came out, and this is I'm a little late on it, but I don't want to hear any haters. Okay, so we're gonna be watching it kind of in double speed because most of you've probably seen it, and I think we just want to see the reaction or commentary, as they say, because very insightful. So let me just speed this up. Turn up the volume so that we can hear Biden. And obviously, main takeaway just before going for even if you haven't seen it, you must hear all the media. Biden looks horrendous in this, and Trump did okay. That's basically the whole thing. Biden was awful. State of the Union to now, horrendous. So let's get right into it.
Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden
hell yeah,
will be
double
on
speed,
the
let's
right.
go.
A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question.
All right.
Microphone will be home. Notes, props, or contact
I will
campaign
say
staff are not permitted during the
the
debate.
questions
By accepting our
were
invitation
quite
to debate
fair in
President of the
this.
United States, Joe Biden.
Oh my god. Yo, how many drugs do you think they give this guy? Yo, whatever
And please
the
welcome the
Pfizer-
45th President of the United States, Donald
At
Trump.
least $1 million for just tonight. This guy's on like Diet Cokes, we all know that. Let's go.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy.
Immigration.
President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120.
Very
and typical home
conservative
prices have jumped more than
estimate.
30%.
It's much higher
What do you say to
than
voters
that,
who feel
but-
they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
You got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me.
Oh my
We had
God.
an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled.
double speed,
Many
it makes
people
him
were dying.
sound
All he said
normal.
was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little
Let's
bleach in your arm.
because he had
You'll
a
be all right.
real rough
The economy
start.
collapsed.
Let me slow it down
No
just
job.
to show how bad he
Unemployment
is.
rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created
Bro's just
15,000 new
mewing.
jobs. We brought on the position where we
Goof
have
one,
800,000
goof alert, that's number
manufacturing
one.
jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of household.
Apparently he
where the
got
kitchen table
every
for
single
things
question
weren't able to
beforehand
work during
and
the month was
practiced
a problem.
several times.
The price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of.
That's why it sounds like
housing,
he's
the
reading
price
off
of
a
whole
script,
range of
'cause
things.
he basically
That's why I'm
did.
working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we
Right.
build 2 million new units.
Goof
We're going to
number
make sure
two?
we
That
cap
was kinda
rents
half goof,
so
but it's
corporate
okay.
greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that,
He sounds out of
we're in a
breath.
situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration,
No, he just has a cold.
he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos.
Just
And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot
Goof
as
three?
opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200.
Again, if you look
for
at
any
older
drug, all the drugs they can
debates
approve
or
to pay
interviews with
next
Biden,
year. In a
it's
situation is
day and
we're
night.
gonna make
He's
that available to
so much.
everybody,
He's like
all
actually mentally
Americans.
competent.
So we're working
Even at
to
the
bring
State
down
of the
the prices
Union,
around the
he was
kitchen
doing much
table,
better than
and
whatever
that's
this
what we're
is.
going to get done.
Thank you, President Trump.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We
Coming out
have
hard.
Never done so well.
I'm gonna double speed this again.
Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster
True.
for our country. But
I don't
other than that,
like
we had
the
given them
spending,
back
but,
a country
you know,
where the stock market
whatever.
actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs. The bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job.
Oh,
And
he
inflation's
hit him
killing
on
our
the
country. It is
illegals.
absolutely killing us.
Such a hard
Thank you, President
position
Biden.
to defend.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks that we have the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised the deficit more than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant in the military. When he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was
Bro,
president,
you had
we were
the
still
worst
finding ourselves
pullout
a
in
position where we had
Afghanistan.
a notion
Oh
that
my.
We were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
That was a flat out
President
lie.
Trump,
but
I want to
okay.
follow up if I can.
You want to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want.
First lips.
I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How
Based?
will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's going to drive
Based?
them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others in all fairness.
China.
It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs.
Bro,
and the
look
jobs
at
went down,
this
and then they bounced
man.
back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far
was
as
not
Afghanistan
writing
is
shit
concerned,
down.
I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
Yep.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire
laws.
next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cut spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country.
Well,
but we spurred that tax
that's
spurred. Now,
not,
when we cut the
you
taxes,
know.
as an example, the corporate tax
I
was
mean,
cut down
I
to
still
21%
support-
from
I still
39%,
support.
plus beyond that.
No.
We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of
Not
dollars back into our
necessarily
country. The
true
country
as
was
well,
going
but-
like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something
That's
that nobody
real.
else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all
Yeah,
of the therapeutics and
he's
all of
right.
the things that we came up with. We gave
Oh,
him
yo,
something
the
great. Remember,
side-eye?
more people
The
died
Biden
under his
side-eye?
administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job.
True.
And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect
Oh
our
my
leadership.
God.
They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the
Boom.
things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The
We're a
damage
third
he's
world
done to our
nation.
country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
That was a
President
strong,
Trump, we
that
will
was a
get to
good
immigration
question.
later
That
in
was
this
good.
block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For
All right,
example,
I'm gonna slow
we
this
have
down 'cause I
1,000
remember
trillionaires
he,
in
like,
America.
fucks up here.
Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system,
I don't know.
making sure that
Group
we're
five?
able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with
6?
the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, he's so cooked. Oh, this old man is so cooked. This is actually elder abuse. When I first watched this, I actually felt bad for Biden. That was so horrible to watch. I'm going to rewind. I want everyone to see this again.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with
Oh my god.
dealing with everything we have to
Oh
do
my
with.
god.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Oh my god. And then he goes, we finally beat Medic. There's nothing to do with anything, bro. Oh my god, that's so hard to watch. Yo, this is elder abuse, dog.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is
True.
going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions
That's a
and millions
very
of people
good
coming in,
excuse.
they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out.
Because, as in America, the Social Security and the benefits for the elderly are set to run out, I believe, in 2033 or something. where they'll have to start cutting benefits. And by shifting the blame onto Biden for the migrant crisis and then using that as an excuse for why the Social Security, even though we've known that Social Security has been awful and going to be running out for literally decades. So this is very good on Trump's part.
Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us.
True.
What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
True that.
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's
Trump is a
restrictive ban.
very
Former President
moderate
Trump,
abortion
you take credit.
candidate, despite what everyone's been saying. He just wants, let Roe v. Wade do its thing, which is just kick back the question to its states. Everyone's saying that he wants a, 10-week abortion ban, which, it should be a 0-week abortion ban. Abortion should be banned. But, he's playing the moderate game
Credit
here.
for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that.
True.
I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote
This
in
is
favor
where
of killing Roe
Biden
v.
can
Wade
really
and
hit him
moving
to
it back to the states. This is something
activate the leftist base, because there's only one thing that'll activate white suburban moms, wine drunk suburban moms, and it's abortion. People love their abortions. White women, black women, all women love abortions.
thing that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago,
That's
or so,
been
they
killing
started
the
talking about how many
Republican
weeks and how many
Party.
this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected,
Biden, man.
wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing.
Oh my
Texas is
God,
different.
Biden
Florida is
looks
different. But they're all making their own
Look at
decisions
this
right now.
brother.
And right
Oh
now,
my
the states
God.
control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some
when-
people, you have to follow
when
your heart. Some
Biden
people don't
says
believe in that.
next is
But I believe in the
outrageous,
exceptions
I
for
think.
rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The
We have
problem
to
they
get
is they're
elected,
radical
bruh.
because they will
We
take the
gotta
life
get
of the child in the
elected.
8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the states should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on
How do you
what
not
your
know if you're pregnant at
circumstances
6
are,
weeks?
whether you need
Okay.
help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women
That's
who
a-
have been.
that's a pretty
including
good
the young
remark.
woman
This
who
old
just
man still
was
got
murdered.
it.
And he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming.
Why is he talking about Laken Riley, bro? Laken Riley was the, I believe, a Columbia med student who got murdered by a Venezuelan illegal alien a few weeks ago.
And they talk
Or
about
months ago.
that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses,
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous.
It's just
And they can do
ridiculous.
nothing about it, and they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the
Boom.
world, considered the most dangerous place.
Beautiful shift. Biden accidentally brings up Laken Riley. Trump just takes that, boom. Take that abortion
Anywhere in the
question.
world. And he
You're
opened
done,
it up, and
buddy.
these killers are coming into our country.
We
and they are
gotta
raping
win.
and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the
Not
founders, if they
mewing.
knew about this issue.
No
which
mew
frankly they
alert.
didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many
Bro,
presidents had
pray
tried to get it
eyes.
back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states that this is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia.
Give me those stem cells.
So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
True.
That is simply not true. That Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only a woman's life is in danger. She's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the
That's
state.
true.
You can
He's
do whatever you
right.
want.
He's right. The Democrat, Trump actually took a very good position on abortion. It's slightly less conservative than maybe a lot of the evangelicals would have liked, but it puts the Democrats in a very odd position where they kind of have to support these late term abortions, because I think he was like a 26-week ban or something, even if he puts in a ban. And now he's putting Biden in a bad position.
We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a
MAGA
universal ban on
Republicans.
abortion, period. That's the bill at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern
here we
border
go.
on your watch.
Let's go.
Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number.
That's a lie. The bill that he's talking about would have given like $50 billion to like Ukraine to get some funding for the border. And then it would also just change the rules so that, instead of calling them illegals, they'd allow like 5,000 asylum seekers legally in every day. So it actually did nothing. Or it was like 15,000, some crazy number.
Asylum officer. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that,
They literally tweet after him saying that. They're like, we never endorsed Biden. He just lied, bro.
When he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated.
That's the babies in the cages. Yeah, fucking Obama started that shit, bro.
You're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border legally. It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol
and
more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Oh my God, we're redoing that. We're restarting that. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my God. I don't know what
making sure the families are separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. It's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
Oh my God, that was so hard to watch. That struggle. That was a struggle.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
This is the only time during the whole debate that he mentions anything about the state of, retardation that, or at least mental decline, because I don't want to be called an elder abuser, but this is the first time he mentions it. I think it's pretty interesting.
The safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave
he didn't.
He decided
Legal immigration
to open up our
actually
border,
went up
open
during
our
the
country
Trump
to
presidency, but
people that are from prisons.
It's okay, but
people that are
Biden's
from mental
much
institutions,
worse.
insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all
That's
over
true.
the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world. They're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had.
To be fair, Republicans just sandbagged him, and that's why he couldn't get the border wall, because nobody would approve funding for the border wall. And that's why everyone got mad at him.
According to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we have the safest border in history.
Brandon, speak to them. Let's go, Brandon. Oh my god. Oh, this is hilarious.
history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person came in his administration, killed three American soldiers, killed three American
Love it.
soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through with the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
No,
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean
Let's
that you will
go.
deport every
Bring that to
undocumented
Canada.
immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying, and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living
that.
right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state
killing
in the
our
union, because
people.
we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden
Migrant crime.
They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never
This
seen
is
before.
migrant
And you're
crime.
reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days.
That's
One of them,
true.
I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taking place.
Yeah,
What's
illegals
taking
are
place
just
in our country.
literally
We're
murdering
literally
and raping
an
12-year-old
uncivilized country
girls.
now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans
That's
are on the
true.
street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress. All of the different
Bro's
things I
just
approved. They
gloating.
We had by far the highest. and now it's
military,
down to less
they
than
love
half
me.
because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in. And
President
it's a very
Biden?
sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since they passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France
Yeah,
for
that's
D-Day,
true.
and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery.
Okay, first of
World War
all, the D-Day, you shit yourself, buddy. You literally took a shit. So,
cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, Suckers and Losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's
Yeah,
failing,
they made
like
it
many
up.
of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say, I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him. Just like Russia was made up. Just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the
true.
16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said
Yeah.
that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from
Hit
the
him with
Sun
the
Hunter.
laptop.
It wasn't Russia disinformation.
let
He
him
made up the
smoke
suckers and
crack.
losers, so he should
Let him
apologize to me
smoke
right now.
crack.
4-star general standing at your side who was on your staff who said you said it. Period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We don't.
I don't wanna apologize. Shut up, bro.
And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home. They go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to
Good.
join NATO.
Good.
Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
Yes.
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information.
Oh
as far
my
as
God.
Russia and Ukraine. If we had a real
Oh, that's
president,
so
the president that
funny.
knew that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead
probably
right now,
true.
much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan.
I fired
where we
him.
left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, "You know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take my." This was his dream. I talked to him about it. His dream. The difference is he never would have
This is
invaded
his dream.
Ukraine. Never.
Fucking
Just like
Putin.
Israel would have
That's all
never
he
been
wants.
invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money
Are you
for
talking
anything.
about
No money for
Israel?
terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my
Let's see.
administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden.
Good.
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where let's take the
That's
last
so
one
much
first.
malarkey,
Iran attacked
brother.
American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place. Number one. Number two, we got over 100,000
Irrelevant.
Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want, and that's exactly what Trump did. To Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He didn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute. I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable
Never said
to
that.
keeping the
No,
territory
they're
in
not
Ukraine?
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion.
True.
That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything
That's
like
a
it.
lot
Every
of
time
money.
that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm
Zelensky is the greatest salesman ever. Let's go.
only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky
Yeah.
as president-elect before I
It's
take
a
office
pretty
on
good
January 20th. I'll have that war
deflection.
settled. People
Doesn't
being
actually
killed
answer
so
the question.
needlessly,
He
so
just goes,
stupidly.
"Never would
And I will
happen."
get it settled, and I'll get it
I
settled
can
fast
fix
before I
it.
take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire.
No.
Not just a piece, he wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, he's gonna
what do you
go
think happens
take
to those
Poland.
countries?
Shut-
And so
bro.
if you want a war, you ought to.
Bro, the population is declining. Everything in Russia, they're aging. Their economy isn't that, it's doing well, but it's not, they're not the, military might the Soviet Union was. It's not like they're just going to keep marching. No, they just don't want NATO literally on their ass.
Find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, and by the way, all that money we give Ukraine for weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have.
Oh, yeah.
That's why
All
that's
the
why it's
NATO
strong.
allies
Thank you. Moving
give
on to
as
the Middle
much
East.
as
In October,
America
Hamas
gives.
attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still
Trump just recently got, I believe, $200 million from a Jewish mega donor. So we're going to see how he likes to answer this.
be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of
Israel
Palestinians and
is
created
committing a
humanitarian crisis in
genocide, by
Gaza.
the way.
President Biden, you've put forward a
all the
proposal
right-wingers are
to
gonna
resolve
attack
this
me.
conflict.
You
But
just
so
hate
far,
brown
Hamas has
people.
not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use
Looks
to
so
get Hamas
scared,
and
bro.
Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through the G7,
12?
the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which is 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. The second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need
Yeah,
them.
you
And
still
by the way,
gave
I'm the
Israel
guy that
like
organized
$40
the war
billion
against Iran when
in,
they had a full-blown
military
intercontinental
support. So.
ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're 2 different things.
Trump.
Hamas cannot allow it to continue. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people to how they can get Hamas like we did Bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly
my
weakened.
God,
Hamas.
who is
Greatly
Trump
weakened. They
mewing
should be-
to?
they should
Look
be
at
winning.
this
But
aura.
you've got to be careful for what using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to
Riz
Ukraine for 1
versus
second.
sexual
We
harassment.
have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General
Hell
of NATO
yeah.
said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak.
He's become like a Palestinian. They know he's just weak. Oh my God. Oh, this debate's too funny, bro. Trump's too funny.
President Biden,
He
you
needs
have
to
a
go
minute.
harder,
Remember so
though.
much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. That's the idea that we have.
Purse lips. Oh my God. Will you get out of NATO? Oh my God. Make this man president.
Our strength lies in our alliances as well. it may be a big ocean, but if we're able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe, what happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about?
Pull us out. I want Canada out of NATO too.
Move on to Poland and
I want
other
Canada out of the
places.
UN.
He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation
some
is
again.
a serious threat to the whole world.
First some again.
No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the
Oh,
problem we have
good
is that we spend all the money.
deflection.
So they kill us
Oh,
on
that
trade.
was beautiful.
Make great
I'll
trade
see.
deals with the European nations. Because if you add them
If
up,
I
they're
have
about the
time,
same
I'll
size
get to it.
economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, no, they don't want anything that we have. But we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they
True.
don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this. I said,
True.
no, I'm not going to support NATO if you
why
don't pay.
Canada needs to
They
pull
asked me
out.
that
Who's
question.
gonna
Would you
invade
guard
us?
us against
We got
Russia?
Big Daddy
At a very
America.
secret meeting of the 28 at that time. And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months.
True.
But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's
Thank you.
bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an
Well,
oath
that was that's definitely a mischaracterization.
to, quote,
Pleased
preserve,
to say,
protect, and
but
defend, unquote, the
CNN,
Constitution.
what do you
What do you say to
expect?
voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January
Let me tell
6th,
you.
we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now left at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is
Boom. Let me tell you about January 6th. Boom, boom, boom. Beautiful answer. Beautiful
horrible,
answer.
including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have
True
80
that.
seconds left. My question
Beautiful.
was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021 and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically.
True.
And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying,
They say.
oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard. and
Nancy
she turned them down.
Pelosi,
And the mayor-
greatest traitor in
writing, by the way, the
history.
mayor,
Follow
in
her
writing, turned it
trades,
down,
you'll
the mayor
make
of-
money.
of DC. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see. I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel
feel it.
And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down. And it was
turned
the
down
same
the
day
National
she was,
Guard
I don't know.
people.
She can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room of the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, he talked about the patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. He went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases. Scores of cases, including the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
And
in
they said-
Arizona, they found like 100,000 ballots that had, that were not properly categorized or whatever in a, an election margin that was definitely less than 100,000. Kind of sus.
They said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones that are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out, and now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that there could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President
Oh
Trump?
my God. A
What they've done
bloodbath.
to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they rip down Portland, when they rip down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis. what they've done
Oh,
there
bring
with the
back
fires all over the
BLM?
city. If I didn't bring in
Let's
the National
go.
Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of the, they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they go to
Thank
jail.
you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, he isn't.
The only man I'm looking at, convicted felon. Convicted felon that can mew. Oh my
He's telling
God.
you simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to
smile.
stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing to, will we denounce these guys? We denounce the people we're talking about now? We denounce the people who attack that?
Shake your head. Shake his
What are we
head.
gonna do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. after a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on
it was
stage
a
with you tonight. Can you
joke.
clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again.
Oh, boom! My retribution is gonna be success. Make this man president again.
It's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times.
Smoking
Should have been
crack,
convicted before, but his
shooting
Justice
guns,
Department let the
coke
statute of
off
limitations
strippers'
lapse on the
ass.
most important
Let's
thing. But he
go.
could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion, you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that we're not going to do anything.
That's
We're not
quid
going to
pro
give $1 billion
quo.
unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged.
I
and
did
disgusting.
nothing
I did
wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Yeah.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that
And then
case.
George
that case was going to be
Soros
appealed and won.
funded it.
We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat.
Horrible
the prosecutor
judge.
were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people,
True.
and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up way up. You know that because you're reporting it.
True.
And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair
I
and
wonder
square.
what
Thank you,
drugs
President
they're
Trump.
going to give him
President Biden,
for
you
the
have said,
next
quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA
election,
Republicans
'cause they
are
gotta give him
determined to
something
destroy
better.
American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done.
Or
And he's
no,
got more- he's got a lot of
American
cases on him.
democracy.
He's got a whole range of issues he has to face.
I want
don't know
Trump
what
as
he's really
king.
doing, But I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Did you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run the first place?
Hitler had some good idea.
Because of Iraq. I said I wouldn't run
Base.
until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying
This is a
swastikas,
joke.
torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And and the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the one he said, I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say? Nazis coming out of fields. carrying
That's
torches,
like the
singing
biggest lie.
anti-Semitic
That's
bile,
been
carrying
disproven so
swastikas.
long ago.
We're fine people. This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I don't know what they are. Good things Hitler's done. That's what he said. This guy has no sense for American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story's been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100%
So
exoneration on
confused.
that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's
Mic
without
drop.
question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country.
president.
We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it.
been debunked.
And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time.
Happened.
And the idea that
was
somehow
out of
someone ran
context,
and ran because
okay.
I heard a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president
Torches,
at all.
bro.
The idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated. We saw it with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president.
Bro, the
reason
feds
why
broke the
40 of his
windows.
44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time.
You're a fed. You're a federal agent.
Why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
50% unemployment.
Bro, okay, so some got cut off. I don't know what happened. It looks like Forbes are a bunch of retards. Anyways, we're going to continue from here. I don't know where it's at.
Decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in involved communities.
Thousands of millions of
We made
jobs.
sure that they had health insurance.
Good.
We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that there are $8,000 per person in the family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. If we're in a position where that we're not doing any, I put more police on the street than any administration has.
Bro, what is
He
a
wants to cut costs.
screencast, brother?
2020 it's a fine
Who's
law
running this shit?
He's supporting that about.
as president to slow the climate crisis.
Let me just go back to what he said about the police.
The climate crisis.
Let me just go back to what he said about the police. How close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost
Hell
every
yeah.
police group.
Donald J.
And
Trump.
what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they...
That's so true. They're super predators, and then he's like, "We don't want to have concrete racial jungles or something like that." When asked about like mixing blacks and whites.
See it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great
Tim
senator
Scott?
from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's
Make
one of the most
him
successful
VP.
economic development acts
I
ever
want
in the country.
Vivek as
Opportunity
VP.
zones.
Let's
And the biggest
go.
beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever the best numbers. He's lost much
True.
of the black population.
That's
Because he's done a
true.
horrible
Trump
job
is
for
probably
black
the
people.
most
He's also done a
popular
horrible job for
for
Hispanics.
blacks.
But when you see these millions of people pouring into our country and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet, it's a disaster.
You have 38 seconds left, President Trump. Will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean
Based.
air, and we had it.
Based.
We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever.
We had
and we did-
H2O.
we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave
That's
me that
true.
statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
That's true. Went down. I don't know why I
The
laughed.
idea-
I'm just a
the
hater.
idea he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation
Smile.
in history. We found ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $50 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black students go to college are doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water. He hadn't done a damn thing in the environment.
He didn't do a
That was the
damn
Paris Peace
thing.
Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it.
Fake, bro. Oh my
The Paris
god.
Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing,
True.
and India nothing.
True.
It was a ripoff of the United
Bro,
States.
anti-Mew?
And I ended it because I
Get
didn't
your
want to
Mew
waste
game
that
on
money because
point,
it treated us
brother.
horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying
took
all
care
our
of the
medical programs
seniors.
because the migrants
Bro,
coming in,
take
they
care
want
of
everybody-
this man.
I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Bring that back. Good shit. Beautiful.
The
Beautiful.
idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence. We're not.
Oh my God.
How can we do anything?
14 goofs?
Under control. One of the largest polluters in the world. Number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant
We're gonna
progress.
cut pollution in
We're continuing
half,
that
yeah.
progress. We set up a climate corps. There are thousands of young people.
Cost $1 trillion.
And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay that. And by
All
the
of
way,
them in the world. Yes, boss.
So every day,
Yes,
millions of
boss.
Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
Ah.
Everybody making under $170,000.
Tax
6%
the poor.
of their paycheck every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I've not raised the cost of Social Security for anybody.
I'm slowing this down. We need to listen to this.
Make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to.
This is how slow he
guarantee
actually is
program
talking, by the way.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there
Commute.
any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare
Smile.
both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea
Bro, can they
that
just start talking
we
about
don't
golf,
need to protect
please?
our seniors is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
And by
That's
the
what he
way,
said about, late-term
American
abortions
public has
and
greater
incest.
healthcare coverage
It's
today than
ridiculous.
ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, we're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition.
God.
Only thing allows
Oh
them
my
to
God.
have that insurance is the fact that they in fact are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in
Bro.
a situation where we talk about education for black communities. I've raised the number,
Why is he
the
talking
amount of
about
money
blacks
for Pell
again?
Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year can be able to get $15,000 toward the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking
If we
about.
do it at point
So I've dealt with
125,
politicians
I think
all my life.
Biden speaks
I've been on this side of
normally.
the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. We mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and sucker story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such
Old man
anger in a
regretting
country
his
before.
life.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he said he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one who acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions of great
Ewing, get this man a Zyn.
and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we're the most successful economy in the
What?
world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way,
Oh,
those
bro,
15
that's a
Nobel
lie.
laureates he talked about being phony. Those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increase as well. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted for him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of
not
child
it.
care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child.
Who
for many families.
cares?
The cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy.
He didn't really drain the swamp,
They were no
but-
good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire
Keep harping
anybody?
on that.
Did you fire
Like-
anybody that's on the
like
border
that.
that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to
nice.
be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed. As you and I sit
Boom.
here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He's the worst president. He just said it about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit.
Nothing deal.
Like this much. It's
Little
insignificant.
bit.
He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this
good.
election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He's the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We are the most admired country in the world, the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't remember the exact number, presidential historians. They've had meetings and they voted who was the worst president in American history. One for best.
Oh, they had
He said he was the
meetings.
worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture.
fact.
He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care. He did virtually nothing in child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses
What?
to have
Thank you, President
child care
Biden.
facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take a minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And
One of the
if I'm given
best.
another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire.
Four
so everybody,
times.
including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I grow up and I see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country.
Trillions
Worst
and
president in history by
trillions
far,
of
and everybody knows
dollars.
it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about. He will increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I never raised the taxes on anybody making less than $20,000.
What?
I didn't. The tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country. You know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that we're reporting. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has.
If you make
not
income
raised-
tax zero,
he's
then,
somehow
you know,
helped the middle
bring
class.
up those
The middle class
tariffs.
is devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of
Protectionism.
$5 billion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American
Just
history.
nodding.
Number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose
it's
deaths in
easy.
this country
Yeah,
has gone
shut
up.
down the
Under your
border.
term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes
Go.
of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, We now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets
Bro's
paid by China.
acting
He's a Manchurian
confused.
candidate. He gets
What?
money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
It's
I would
too
say
much
that's
money.
And there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't kept the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country. And he's got the
Repeat
worst-
again. Repeat
the worst
it.
situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So President
Bro
Trump, you have
did
60
not
seconds
talk
left. The
about
question was,
the
what are you gonna do
opioid.
to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well in addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border where it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog. That's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it.
We got
did a
the
lot.
dog.
We were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yep.
At numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But
It's
the
so
number
bad.
of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and byproduct fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use a machine that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across.
Oh,
the
these
border.
big
And
machines.
It cost a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together. This bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs.
More fentanyl in the bipartisan deal. Let's go.
And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues and said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have to.
Oh, Mexico's working with you.
That's what we have to do. We need
Do you
those
see who
machines.
just got
Thank you, President Biden.
Do you see who just got elected in Mexico? Jewish woman, socialist, murdered 38 other candidates, owned by drug cartels, friends with Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock.
President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made a catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had
Yeah.
done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will.
Bring back, what's her name? Grimes? They traded her, that, like, woman basketball player who still hasn't played for, like, the worst, like, war criminal ever.
Have him out.
Big
very quickly.
W.
As soon as I take office, before I take office, I said, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We have two cases, we paid
Billions.
$6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Dan?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address
Oh, they're
concerns
talking about age?
your
Let's go.
capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person.
You ain't
ever
young no
elected to the
more.
Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that this, look at the record. Look what I've done. Look, I've turned
Sorry,
around
I just
Harvard
want to put everything in context again. Let's put him at slow speed. Back to normal, okay?
He left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs.
Oh my
We're
God, he's
investing
so
in
old.
America. Over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people. Well, the whole idea.
Oh my
Computer
God, how do you
chips,
gonna
we
gaff
still
on that
have
question, bro?
We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here.
Why is he talking about
And
chips?
then, guess what? Those fabs they call them to build these chips. Those fabs pay over $100,000.
Bro, Trump knows he got this.
And there's billions.
You know, when I was playing it super fast, you can't tell how,
being
you know,
built
bad
right
he's
now
doing.
in
He's
the
doing
United States,
so
creating
bad.
significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I've never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the
Oh,
United
please
States
just
of
get the
America.
sentence. You
All
should have
our
said no.
problems and
Stop
all our
speaking.
opportunities.
It
We're
hurts.
the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he cuddles up to, from Kim Jong Un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you.
That made
Former
no
President
sense,
Trump,
but
to
okay.
follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have
Who can you
concerns
like that at
about your
82 though?
capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took one. I'd like to see him take one, just one. A real easy one. I go through the first 5 questions.
Are they going to talk about golf?
But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood. I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior. 2 regular club championships.
Not even
To do that,
senior.
you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it.
Real
He can't hit the
smart.
ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm in good shape.
This is the presidential debate for the most powerful country in the planet. Both of these men have had access or have access to the nuclear codes, the second largest nuclear arsenal in the planet, on the world.
Shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie
Aced them.
Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace them.
Thank you. President Biden?
I've never aced the test like that.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 225 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says. Take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest now. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And about
First of all, they're talking about golf. A 6 handicap is like the greatest
I
handicap.
told you before, I'm happy to play golf.
Oh my
Carry my
God.
bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest ladder. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap. 8. But I have,
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
You know,
go.
no, 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 no.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
There you go. Biden
And
sounded pretty good.
You will say
He's
right
about
now that
1.5
political
speed.
violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election
Bro,
is fair,
close your
free, and I
mouth.
want that more than
Start
anybody.
mewing.
And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I might be here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great
I
again.
need to come
We're gonna
back.
Make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World
This
War III.
is
And
the
we're closer to
president,
World War
guys.
III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5.
What is he
Attack everyone,
yapping
attack all,
about?
and required response. The
Bro,
idea,
bro
the
bro
idea-
isn't even
I can't
fluent
think
in
of a single
Japanese.
business leader in the world who wouldn't
Bro's
trade places
fluent
with the job
old,
they've done,
bro.
what they've done. Because we're a powerful nation. We have wonderful. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when we need it. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because of our own safety at the stake. And again, you want to have
Oh,
a war,
democracy,
just
shut
let Putin go
up.
ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move
Let's
on,
send another
say half
trillion to
the people
Ukraine.
in Hungary,
Ow,
and other places
bitch.
along that border.
I
Then
want
you
100 billion to Ukraine.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a
to
follow-up,
Israel.
the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew
That's
not to do
true.
it. Not going to play games with me. He knew
true.
that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games.
Did
He took nothing
Crimea
from me.
happen under Trump?
But now he's going to
Nope.
take the whole thing.
The
from this
Donbass.
man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take
It's
Ukraine.
true.
And you asked me a question before. Would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people.
Yep.
It's so sad. They've
Yep.
lost so many people. And they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden
Scared
domes that are
old
1,000
man.
years old. All because of him and stupid
Elder
decisions.
abuse,
Russia
bro.
would have never
Elder
attacked.
abuse.
President
President
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I
True.
would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news
was.
conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level, because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you said you continued. You appealed and appealed to courts all across the country.
Japanese,
Not one
bro.
single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local. None. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There's no evidence of that at all.
There was stealing.
And I tell you what, I doubt we'll accept it. It's just a
Irregularities.
lie. The idea if you lose again, you accept anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN.
All right. Let's get to the final statements.
We made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic, and he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes in the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare to for the ability us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma.
All right, that's enough yapping. Let's get
President
this a
Trump,
little
millions
bit
of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville.
Good.
This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you
True.
throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of...
All right, well, there you have it. That was the debate. 1.75 speed. Now, there's a few things obviously to mention. In the times when I obviously slowed it down because it was a little bit harder when it was at 1.75 speed, but most of you probably have seen the memes by now. The cognitive decline of Joe Biden since even the State of the Union, which was just a few months ago, is very rapid. It is unbelievable how quickly that, and they drugged him up. Obviously, they drugged him up. They gave him, probably the same cocktail of drugs that they gave him for the State of the Union, thinking that would work. It didn't. He looked very frail. I think the excuse was that he has a cold, but even a lot of Democrat donors are pulling back now, and you have a lot of even Democrat support. You see the pictures of people watching it, and they're just like, they're like crying. So you can really tell that they dropped the ball with Biden, but they're still committed to him, which I'm very, right now I'm not, I'm becoming less and less certain that he's going to be the nominee because I truly do not believe he'll even make it to the second debate. They'll replace him 100%. With who do we know? Can we get Big Mike in here? I hope so. Anyways, so yeah. The one goal for the Biden campaign was obviously just survive, right? They just needed him to look kind of okay, which I think they failed. I think they truly failed at that. That was essentially their only goal. And they couldn't get through. He had a lot of goofs. He had a lot of gaffes. A lot of that pause near the beginning was really rough. The beginning overall was really rough. He picked up a little bit steam, 20 minutes in, halfway in, and then he started losing it a little bit. But no, it was rough. He's old. He looks withered. It looks like elder abuse. People are starting to feel bad. And yeah, so that's on Joe Biden's side. So I think that was a definitely fail. And on the Trump side, Trump also took a while to pick up a lot of his, everyone will say, well, he dominated. No, I don't think so. I don't think he dominated that hard. I think he showed up. He didn't want to just absolutely diss on Biden. He didn't want to come out and just go, haha, retard, for the entire time. He did it once or twice. Which I think, a lot of people are saying that was a bad move. Some people are saying it's a good move. I don't know. If he would have came out and attacked it, I think that would have angered a lot of people. And I think this like moderated pace is a lot, I think it's a lot more conservative because they're just letting Biden mess up. But I also think it proves and it kind of shows that even Trump, his cognitive abilities are kind of also on the slight decline, and his, maybe his energy levels are a little bit lower. His enthusiasm's a little bit lower than especially in 2016 and in 2020. Overall, his answers were okay. There was a few, gotchas or like boom moments, but there wasn't really, he didn't come out punching that hard. I feel like he could have come out punching a lot harder. He hit very well on the Ukraine. He hit very well on the illegal immigration stuff. He's bankrupting Medicaid is pretty good. But overall, I think Biden definitely had a chance to, destroy him on abortion, and I don't think Trump had a very good answer for it. But, I think they both did. I think Trump did much better, but again, it took Trump a while to pick up steam as well. It took him also, half an hour to start really, throwing jabs out there. But yeah, so that's the presidential debate. Everyone knows what's going to happen. The polls are probably going to show this very soon that Trump's going to go massively up. Trump skirting the Israel question was very smart. I think that was a very good move to not, diss any side, to alienate any of donors or any, Democrats which are being pushed away from the Biden campaign for their lack of support of Palestine. This was a good move on him. The fact that they were talking about golf was pretty funny. But overall, nothing too big. This wasn't a Trump-Hillary debate. You can definitely say that. It wasn't that, wasn't boom, 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 slam dunk bombs going off, It was like a little jab here, a little jab there. But, what we're seeing is basically two old cranky men yapping at each other. That's it. Anyways, that is the Trump and Biden debate, number 1. Very excited to see the second one, and I can't wait for the Canadian elections to begin their debating in the next year. Anyways, thank you as always for listening. I will catch you next time.